Good morning. Welcome back to Passion World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Educate, enlighten, entertain, mindfulness. And on Monday Tips with Lillian, we're going to discuss from Sojourners, a magazine on politics, 10 ways or 10 tips to stay grounded during our president's second term, written by Daniel Hunter. So, in order to approach our current president's administration and remain sane at the same time, we have to resist the temptation to be fearful, isolated, exhausted, and constantly disoriented by what he says and how he acts. Now, there's a rapid rise of the right wing populism globally. And when the current president won his second term, I developed some strategies, what I call my tips, for how folks might meaningfully respond. And when he won, I found myself deeply in shock and sadness. And after the days when he was elected, I reached out to the community to try to assess and get our collective feet back underneath us. Being grounded is difficult when the future is unknown and filled with anxiety. Our current president has signaled the kind of person he will be: vengeful, uncontrolled, unburdened by past norms and current laws. And if you're someone like me, you've already tired. The prospect of 3 more years after this year is daunting. Mr. Hunter is a nonviolence trainer who works with social movements across the globe. He's been blessed to work with colleagues living under autocratic regimes to develop resilient activist groups. His colleagues keep reminding him that good psychology is good social change. And for us to be of any use in this current administration's world, we must pay attention to our inner states so we don't perpetuate the autocrats' goals of fear, isolation, exhaustion, and constant disorientation. He was raised by a liberation theologian, and he reminded of how we lean hard on community and faith in tough times. So, in that spirit, Mr. Hunt is offering some tips to ground yourselves for the time ahead. Number one, trust yourself. The current administration is arriving at a time of great social distrust. There's more distrust in the media, medical professional, experts, politicians, community institutions, and membership groups. There are rifts among friends and family, and even our trust in predictable weather has been diminished by global warming. Distrust fuels the flame of autocracy because it makes it easier to divide and conquer. Trust building starts by trusting your own eyes and gut. This means being trustworthy, not just with the information, but with your emotions. If you're tired, rest. If you're scared, make peace with your fears. If you need to stop checking your phone compulsively, do it. If you don't want to read this article now and would rather take a good long walk, do it. Start with trusting your inner voice. Trust in self is foundational for a healthy movement life. And he has provided some resources at Finding, Finding, steady, Steady, ground, GROUND.com that you, the audience, may find helpful. Number two, find others who you trust. In a destabilized society, you need people who help ground you. Hannah Arendt, Arendт, author of The Origins of Totalitarianism, uses the word, and I cannot pronounce it, but I will spell it for you, Verlasssenheit, often translated as loneliness, to describe a kind of social isolation of the mind. Constant attacks on social systems turn us away from leaning on each other and toward ideologically simple answers that increase isolation. In Chile in the 1970s and 80s, the dictatorship aimed to keep people in such tiny nodes of trust that everyone was an island unto themselves. At parties, people would commonly not introduce each other by name for fear of being too involved. Fear breeds distance. We must consciously break that distance. Find people you can regularly touch base with. Use that trust to explore your own thinking and support each other to stay sharp and grounded. For the last several months, I've been hosting a regular group at my house to, quote, explore what is up with these times, unquote. Our crew thinks differently, but invests in trust. We emote, cry, sing, laugh, sit in stillness, and think together. All of us will benefit from actively organized nodes to help stabilize us. 3. Grieve. The human thing to do is grieve loss. Humans are also good at contemplating, rationalizing, intellectualizing, and ignoring. The damage this does to our body and psyche is well documented, but the inability to grieve is a strategic error. After he won in 2016, we saw colleagues who never grieved. They remained in shock. For years, they kept saying, I can't believe he's doing that. When he won the first time, I stayed up until 4 a.m. with a colleague for a tear filled night of naming things that we had lost. This helped us find the sadness, anger, numbness, shock, confusion, and fear inside of us. We grieved, we cried, we held each other, we breathed. We dove back into naming what we knew we'd lost and things we thought would be likely to lose. It wasn't strategizing or planning. Ultimately, this helped believe it. So we didn't spend years in a day saying, I can't believe this is happening in this country. Believe it. Believe it now. Grief is a pathway to acceptance. 4. Release that which you cannot change. On her bedroom wall, my mom had a copy of the Serenity Prayer. Quote, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Unquote. The theologian Reinhold Niebuhr wrote this during the rise of Nazi Germany. This current administration has proclaimed that its first day will include everything from pardoning January 6 insurrectionists, reallocating money to build the wall, pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement, and firing 50,000 plus government workers to begin replacing them with loyalists. It's doubtful that day two will be much quieter. And amid that chaos, it will be hard to accept that we cannot do it all. A colleague in Turkey told me that something bad happens every day, and if he were to react to every bad thing, he'll never have time to eat. Another time, an elder saw me trying to do everything and pulled me aside. That's not a healthy lifelong strategy, she said. She'd been raised in Germany by Holocaust survivors who told her never again. She felt she had to stop every wrong. It racked her and contributed to several ongoing medical conditions. So he created a journaling exercise. It asked what issues in the coming years I would, quote, completely throw down for, do a lot for, do a little for, or despite caring about, do nothing for at all. That last question can feel like torture for many of us, but the desire to act on everything leads to a bad strategy. 5. Find your path. Last spring, Mr. Hunt wrote, "What will you do if the current administration wins?" A choice, your own adventure style book. Differentiated pathways of resistance will emerge, as will plenty of opportunities to join the cause. You may be attracted to some pathways more than others. Your path may not be clear right now. That's okay. Below are just a few paths. You can find more at trumpwins.org. Protect people. These are folks surviving and protecting our own, especially those of us directly targeted, such as trans people, folks choosing abortions, and immigrants. This might mean organizing outside current systems for healthcare and mutual aid, or moving resources to communities that are being targeted. Defend civic institutions. This group may or may not be conscious that current institutions don't serve us all, but they are united in understanding that this man wants them to crumble so he can exert greater control over our lives. Institutional pillars understand his presidency is a direct threat. These insiders will need external support, such as showing compassion that some of our best allies would be made inside, silently resisting. Celebrate people who get fired for doing the right thing, then offer them practical help with life's next steps. Disrupt and disobey. In Norway, to create a culture of resistance during World War II, people wore innocuous paper clips as a sign they wouldn't obey. In Siberia, protests against their dictator started with student strikes before escalating to strikes by pensioners, before finally escalating to the game changing strike of coal miners. The ultimate goal is paving a path for mass non cooperation. Tax resistant national strikes, work shutdowns, and other non-violent mass disobedient taxes are the most effective strategy to displace authoritarians. But please, note from the host, be careful because he has placed executive orders in that if you are protesting, he will come after you and punish you. So make sure you keep up to date with his executive orders and any laws he passes. Build alternatives. We can't only react. We need a vision to build alternatives that are more democratic, loving, and kind. This can include grounding and healing work, rich cultural work, different ways of growing food and caring for kids, participatory budgeting, or seeding constitutional convention to build a major authoritarian alternative to the elective college mess we're in. 6. Do not obey in advance. Do not self censor. If autocrats teach us any valuable lesson, it's this: political space that you don't use, you lose. This is for all levels of society: lawyers advising, nonprofits, leaders worried about their funding base, folks worried about losing their jobs. I'm not coaching you to never self protect. You can decide when to speak your mind, but we must combat the slippery slope. In Timothy Snyder's helpful book and video series on tyranny, he cites ceding power as the first problem. Quote, most of the power of authoritarianism is freely given. Individuals think ahead about what a more repressive government will want and then offer themselves without being asked. A citizen who adapts in this way is teaching power what it can do. Put simply, use the political space and voice you already have. 7. Reorient your political map. A few months ago, I sat in a room with retired generals, Republicans such as Michael Steele, ex governors, and congresspeople. We were scenery planning ways to prevent this man's abuse of the Insurrection Act to target civilian protesters. For a committed anti war activist, the phrase, quote, strange bedfellows, unquote, doesn't begin to describe the bizarre experience I felt. This man's presidency reshapes alignments and personalities. How we position ourselves matters. Are we only interested in maintaining ideological purity and preaching to our own choir? Even if you don't want to engage, we all must give space to those who do experiment with new language to appeal to others who don't share our worldview. Empathy will be helpful. At the close of that planning day, I saw a lot of pain and people of great power who are admitting a kind of defeat. The general said the military cannot stop him from giving these orders. Politician says Congress cannot stop it. The lawyer said we cannot stop it. I felt compassion that surprised me. Only the left activist said we have an approach of mass non cooperation that can stop this, but we need your help. I'm not sure that projected confidence was well received, but if we're going to live into that approach or lean into that approach, and I'm far from certain we can't, we need to be pragmatic about power. 8. Get real about power. Psychological exhaustion and despair are high. We're not going to convince this guy not to break norms and laws that get in his way. Marches and symbolic protests will not change his mind. We must recognize that his power is unstable, like an upside down triangle, and naturally topples without support. Power relies on pillars of support to keep it upright. Describing these pillars, nonviolence strategist Gene Sharp said, quote, by themselves, rulers cannot collect taxes, enforce repressive laws and regulations, keep trains running on time, prepare national budgets, direct traffic, manage ports, print money, repair roads, keep markets supplied with food, make steel, build rockets, train the police and army, issue postage stamps, or even milk a cow. If people would stop providing these skills, that ruler could not rule. Removing one pillar of support can gain major life saving concessions. Removing many will result in system wide change. In Blockade, Catholic activist Dick Taylor described how he and a tiny group changed U.S. foreign policy by blocking armaments sent to support Pakistan dictator Yahya Khan. They repeatedly sent canoes to block military shipments leaving from East Coast ports until the International Longshoremen Association was persuaded to refuse to load them. This broke the back of national policy. Power will need to emerge from faults no longer obeying the current unjust system. This tipping point of mass non cooperation will require convincing many people to take huge personal risks for a better future. 9. Handle fear, make violence rebound. Aptar, a Siberian student organizing group, took a sarcastic response to regular police beating by joking, "It only hurts if you're scared." Their attitude wasn't cavalier, it was tactical. They refused to grow fear. When hundreds were beaten on a single day, their response was, "This repression will only stiffen the resistance. Handling fear isn't about suppressing it, it's about constantly redirecting." Activist slash intellectual Hardy Merriman released a studied response about political violence that surprised me. That's Mr. Hunter. Physical political violence remains relatively rare in the US. Threats of violence, however, trend upward. CNN reported politically motivated threats to public officials increased 178% during this man's presidency, primarily from the right. He noted that a key component to political violence is to intimidate. Well, we know that this guy is a bully, so there's no big surprise there. We can shrink, we can shrink into a cacophony of "that's not fair," which fuels the fear of repression. Or we take a page from the great movement strategist Bayard Rustin. Black civil rights leaders were targeted by the Montgomery, Alabama government during the 1950s bus boycott. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. went into hiding after police threats of arrest based on antiquated anti boycott laws. Comment. Sounds like what our current president is doing now, right? Rustin organized them to go to the station and demand to be arrested since they were leaders, making a positive spectacle of the repressions. Folks held their arrest papers high in the air amid a cheering crowd. Fear turned into valor. 10. A vision, a positive future. We've all imagined how bad it might get. We would do ourselves a favor and a service to envision a positive future as rioter Walidah, Walidah, Imarsha, capital Imarisha, says, "The goal of visionary fiction is to change the world. We may mount righteous indignation that leads to mass non cooperation far beyond our expectations. Faith groups may play a critical role in leading morally charged strikes, tax resistance, and refusals to comply with unjust orders. Exposed political weakness could quickly turn many inside from this president's organization against him. That feels far away from now, but possibilities and the potential remain." Practicing future thinking gives me some hope and some strategic sensibilities. On the days when I can't imagine good political possibilities, I zoom out to the lifespan of trees and rocks, heading into spiritual reminders that nothing lasts forever. Your biggest and most important tip: all the future is uncertain, but a more hopeful future is more likely if we keep thinking of creative solutions. This article is adapted with permission from wagingnonviolence.org. That's wagingnonviolence.org. Daniel Hunter is a trained activist globally on nonviolence and chose democracy. He is author of the Climate Resistant Handbook and Building a Movement to End the New Jim Crow. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on Monday Tips with your host, Lillian Cauldwell. This program is brought to you by Ruby, RUBI.ai. Check us out, AIwithlillian.com. Click on it. It will take you over to a web page where you will see Ruby.ai, the testimonials with people using it, and a demonstration of how it works. Go through it, read everything, and then sign up for a monthly subscription. Also, this is brought to you by Conscious Research Solution. At Passionate World Talk Radio, we are a research assistant for those who want to learn more about it. Go over to passionateworldtalkradio.com/research, my simple blog. Here it answers all the questions about the kind of research we do and your questions about the pain points one endures. And then sign up for a free 15-minute consultation and see how we can help you get from A to B. There's a Calendly link. Please click on it. It'll take you into PWTR calendar, and please pick a time and sign up. And if you want the whole news along with the whole truth and nothing but the truth, then please consider donating to an all-woman run, operated internet talk radio station at passionatworldtalkradio.com/donation. And should you wish to see this video on all our other videos on Monday Tips, please scroll down to State of Current Affairs, click on it. It'll take you to a web page. Click on the Google link and it'll take you inside the belly of youtube.com. Thank you very much for listening and have a great day.